code of silence. Omerta, the mob, the mafia. Are you ready to learn some English vocabulary that has to do with the mafia? Yes. You see, the New York City is the hub of the mafia in America. When we say the hub, it means the center. The mob and the city. You see, in American English, we refer to the mafia as the mob. And New York City is referred to as the city. The mob is the organization, and inside the mob are mobsters. This is the Brooklyn Bridge. It connects Manhattan, New York, the city, to Brooklyn. And Brooklyn is where the mafia just runs rampant. Let's take a look at some stuff. Let's start off in the 80s. In the 80s, the mafia was really thriving. When you say something is thriving, it means it's doing great. Like a business can be thriving. Unfortunately, the mafia was thriving in the 80s. And this man was the boss of all bosses. His name is Paul Castellano. The boss of all bosses refers to being the boss of the 5 crime families. Yes, in New York, there is 5 crime families. The Colombos, the Gambinos, the Bonanos, the Lucchese's, and the Genovese. He was the head of the Gambino crime family in the 80s. He was the boss of all bosses. And then he got rubbed out. When you say to rub someone out, someone got rubbed out, it means they were killed. Do you see this? This is his car. On the other side is him, Paul Castellano, a.k.a. Big Paul. A.k.a. means also known as. This was his driver, Thomas Bellotti. They got rubbed out in front of a very famous and well-known steakhouse in New York. It's called Sparks Steakhouse.
It was said he was the boss of bosses, Paul Castellano, gunned down on a crowded New York City street.
Now, the man who rubbed them out was this gentleman, John Gotti, a.k.a. the Dapper Don. To be dapper means to be very chic, well-dressed. Why was he called the Dapper Don? Check this out. You see that? This is a 6-button double-breasted suit. The reason it's called a 6-button double-breasted suit is because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5th button is behind his hand. 6-button double-breasted suit. He loved wearing handmade or tailor-made Italian suits. When you say handmade or tailor-made, of course, it's self-explanatory. That means these suits were made just for him. He was one of the most flamboyant gangsters of the late 80s and early 90s. Now, the word flamboyant means someone that loves to show off, someone that loves to be seen, someone that loves to show how much money they have, how good looking they are. He was the Dapper Don, and the Dapper Don was extremely flamboyant.
Who was a sensation of his time, not just because of his crimes, but because of his style. Mob boss John Gotti was so well known in the crime.
Now that you saw that, what we're going to do is read an article together about the Dapper Don, his rise, his flight, and of course, his downfall. And he had a terrible downfall. He was betrayed by his right-hand man. To be betrayed means someone does something behind your back to hurt you. Your right-hand man means your closest friend, your closest ally.
John Gotti, the Teflon Don, the mob boss who changed the face of organized crime, putting the once secretive lifestyle on full display.
He was over the top.
And he was taking full advantage of his celebrity.
I think his problem was that he fell in love with himself. He saw himself on television, in the newspapers, and he lost touch with what he was.
That was pretty cool, right? Okay, let's take a look at this article. Now, what does it say? It says, John Gotti. He was slippery, yes, but even the Teflon Don couldn't escape justice forever. Okay, the word slippery here is being used as a person that is very hard to catch. You ever try to grab a fish and it's slippery and it slips out of your hand? Here, it goes to the Teflon Don. After his nickname, remember I taught you guys his nickname? What was it? About being flamboyant. What kind of Don was he? Remember, he dressed really nice. Any ideas? Answer in the comment section. Well, anyway, after that, he started being referred to as the Teflon Don. Teflon, the second meaning of it, means a word that is able to resist anything. So, but even the Teflon Don couldn't escape justice forever. The Teflon Don means a person that no matter what you did to him, nothing would hurt him. Now remember, I don't know if you commented or not, his name was also the Dapper Don. But then they started calling him the Teflon Don because a few times he was arrested and he went to trial and beat the charges. Now, let's read this article together. This is him. Here we go. Despite the future nickname, John Gotti, a violent, ruthless mobster who'd grown up on the streets of New York, had been in and out of prison several times in his early career. Let's look at this word. Ruthless mobster. Ruthless means very evil. Not a nice person. And of course, mobster, remember? Mobsters, the mob at the beginning. So, a violent, ruthless mobster who'd grown up in the streets of New York had been in and out of prison several times in his early career. In 1968, for example, now how are we using we? Is it me? It can't be me because I wasn't even born in 68. I was born in 1970. We is referring to the FBI because this article was written by an FBI agent. In 1968, for example, we arrested him for his role in a plot to steal thousands of dollars worth of merchandise. Gotti was sent to prison but was released in 1972. The word plot here, okay, plot has many different meanings, but the way it's being used in this sentence is a plan but to do something bad, and quickly made more trouble. Within 2 years, we arrested him again for murder. Same story. He went to prison and was out in a few years. Soon after, he became a made man for the Gambino crime family, one of the 5 most powerful syndicates in the Big Apple. Gambling, loan sharking, narcotics, trafficking were his stocks in trade. Let's start first with this. He became a made man. When you become a made man in the mafia, it means you're a member of the organization. One of the 5 most powerful syndicates in the Big Apple. The Big Apple is the nickname for New York City. A nickname is a name given to you by other people, like John Gotti's nicknames were the Dapper Don, the Teflon Don. By the early 80s, using Title III wiretaps, mob informants, and undercover agents, we were beginning to get clear insights into the Gambino crime family hierarchy and activities, and into the other families as well. We were building strong cases against them as criminal enterprises. Let's look at this word. Let's look at this whole sentence. The Gambino family's hierarchy. Hierarchy means the higher up, the upper echelon of the group. So that means they were getting clear information into the bosses of the Gambino crime family. A break against Gotti came in late 1985 when mob violence spilled out into the streets of Manhattan. When you get a break, we usually say to catch a break. When you catch a break, it means something good happened for you. The scene of the crime? What did I tell you about? Let's read this together. The scene of the crime? Spark Steakhouse, a popular hangout for major criminals. On the evening of December 16, 1985, 70-year-old mafioso Paul Castellano, the apparent successor of the recently deceased Gambino boss Ianello Della Croce, was gunned down along with his number two in command, Thomas Bellotti, in front of the restaurant. Gunned down. When someone is gunned down, it means bang, 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 bang. They're killed right out in the middle of the street with his number two in command. That means the second person in charge. At the beginning of the video, I called Thomas Bellotti his right-hand man. But here, it refers to him as the number two in command. Right-hand man, number two in command, they both go hand in hand. Gotti, who'd been watching from a car at a safe distance, had one of his men drive by the scene to make sure his deadly orders had been carried out. Let's read this again together now. Gotti, who'd been watching from a car at a safe distance, had one of his men drive him by the scene to make sure his deadly orders had been carried out. That means John Gotti had Paul Castellano rubbed out. Having eliminated the competition, Gotti took over as head of the Gambino family. With his expensive suits, lavish parties, and illegal dealings, he quickly became something of a media celebrity, and the press dubbed him the Dapper Don. Following a string of highly publicized acquittals, helped in large by witness intimidation and jury tampering, Gotti also earned the Teflon Don nickname. Let's look at this whole paragraph together. Oops. Having eliminated the competition. In that sentence, they're saying since he eliminated Paul Castellano, he killed Paul Castellano. Gotti took over as head of the Gambino crime family. To be the head of somewhere or something means you're the boss. Now, he became the head of the Gambino crime family, but you can use this for everyday business. At one time, Bill Gates was head of Microsoft. Steve Jobs was the head of Apple. With his expensive suits, lavish parties. Lavish means extravagant, expensive, very, very flamboyant. And illegal dealings, he became something of a media celebrity, and the press dubbed him the Dapper Don. When someone dubs you something, dubbed him, means they give you a nickname. The Dapper Don, following a string of highly publicized acquittals. Acquittal comes from the word acquitted. It's a word used in court. When you're acquitted of all your charges, it means you're found not guilty. Helped them enlarge by witness intimidation and jury tampering. Witness intimidation, it means to intimidate someone. The word intimidation comes from intimidate. It means to scare someone. Hey, you open up your mouth in court and you'll see what we do to you and your family. Shh, don't say another word or else you're going to get it. That's intimidating. Gotti also earned the Teflon Don nickname. Remember we were talking about the Teflon Don? Now let's check this out. Our New York agents and their colleagues in the New York Police Department, though, refused to give up. With extensive court-authorized electric surveillance, diligent detective work, and eventual cooperation of Gotti's henchmen, Sammy the Bull Gravano, the Bureau of NYPD built a strong case against him. Gotti's henchman, Sammy the Bull Gravano. To be someone's henchman, it means you do violent acts for him. So what it's saying here is Sammy the Bull was Gotti's henchman, and he would carry out violent acts on behalf of John Gotti. In December 1990, our agents and NYPD detectives arrested Gotti, and he was charged with multiple counts of racketeering, extortion, jury tampering, and other crimes. This time, the judge ordered that jurors remain anonymous, identified only by number, so no one could pressure them, and the case was airtight. Okay, here it says, this time the judge ordered the jurors remain anonymous. Anonymous means no one knows who you are. Identified only by number, so no one could pressure them. So no one could pressure them. No one could intimidate them. Hey, you better make sure you don't say guilty in John Gotti's case, or else. And the case was airtight. When something is airtight, it means it's perfect. The combination worked. On April 2nd, 1992, 15 years ago, Monday. Now, 15 years ago, this is because this article was written that long ago. Let's read it again so you don't get confused. The combination worked. On April 2nd, 1992, 15 years ago, Monday, Gotti was convicted on 13 counts, including for ordering the murders of Castellano and Bellotti. The head of the New York office famously remarked, "The Don is covered with Velcro, and every charge stuck." Let's take a look at this. The head of the New York office famously remarked, "The Don is covered with Velcro and every charge stuck." Now remember, Velcro sticks. Teflon, you can't stick. So they said the Teflon is gone and the Don is covered with Velcro. Indeed, Gotti evaded the law for the last time. He died in prison in June of 2002. Now, those were lots of things we learned about the Mafia. I decided to teach you some things that were kind of off the cuff. What does it mean to be off the cuff? It means different. Hey, make sure you leave me a comment. Tell me if you liked it or not. People, I'm out.